High school hallways echo. That's the first lesson you learn if you're not part of the chosen crowd. Your secrets don't bounce off the walls. They sink in, multiply, and walk ahead of you like shadows. For me, junior year was supposed to be the fresh start. A year to shed the awkwardness of the past, to finally blend in, maybe even belong. I'd planned it all out. New haircut, new jacket, a set of goals so earnest you'd laugh if you knew me outside these halls. Most of all, I was determined to just keep my head down. But if high school is a stage, some people are born to be in the spotlight, and some are born to be punchlines. I knew my place. Or at least, I thought I did until the day I heard my own name, sharp as a pin, from 3 lockers down. It started subtle. The first week after spring break, I noticed people glancing my way in the lunchroom. Not just a quick look, but that sideways glance, the kind that flicks over you like a price tag, tallying what you're worth. I brushed it off. Maybe I had food on my face, or maybe my shirt was inside out again. Wouldn't be the first time. But the looks kept coming, day after day, spreading from one table to the next. My friends started acting weird, too. Kira, who'd sat with me every day since 7th grade, suddenly found a reason to eat with her soccer team. Jason texted less. Our usual sarcasm replaced with short, awkward replies. Even teachers seemed to watch me with a new wariness, as if waiting for me to slip up. I kept telling myself it was nothing, that maybe everyone was just stressed about finals or prom. But the truth clawed its way out of the corners. On Wednesday, as I squeezed past the cheerleaders by the trophy case, I heard it clear as day me name, and a word I'd never wanted associated with me. Desperate. "She's so thirsty," Brianna giggled, loud enough for half the hallway to hear. "Sliding into all those DMs? Like, get a grip." I froze mid-step, willing my cheeks not to burn. Brianna and her friends barely looked at me, just flicked their glossy hair, eyes glittering, and kept going, but their words left bruises. I pressed forward, counting the steps to homeroom, jaw clenched so tight it ached. Brianna Harris was the queen of subtle cruelty. She didn't trip you in the hall or stuff notes in your locker. She just turned her gaze your way and watched you shrink. Her power wasn't in what she did, but in what she let everyone else believe. If she decided you were a story, it didn't matter what was true. By lunchtime, the rumor was everywhere. I found out the details in whispers, in stifled giggles, in the way people scrolled through their phones as I passed. Apparently, I'd been texting 3 guys at once, one of them already dating someone, one about to ask Brianna to prom, the last one, Tyler, Brianna's very recent ex. The story twisted in real time. In one version, I was heartbroken and pathetic, confessing my love for Tyler in an epic chain of cringe texts. In another, I was scheming, desperate to break up every couple before prom night. I tried to ignore it. I tried to act normal. But you can't outrun your own reputation. Not in high school. Not when it's being rewritten for you every hour. The first person to bring it up to my face was my English teacher, Mr. Daniels. After class, he held me back, peering at me over his glasses. "Is everything all right?" he asked. "You seem distracted. If there's something going on, you know you can talk to me." I shook my head, mumbling that everything was fine. But my voice was thin, threadbare. He let me go, but not before saying, "Don't let the noise get to you. People move on faster than you think." But the noise didn't move on, it only got louder. By Friday, the rumors had mutated. Fake screenshots of my texts were making the rounds, badly cropped, full of typos I'd never make, but real enough to fool most people who wanted to believe them. I'd gone from invisible to infamous in 5 days. Kira stopped answering my texts altogether. Jason sent a final, awkward, "hope you're okay," before falling silent. My locker was defaced with a post-it, from Queen of Desperation. By the time I peeled it off, half the hallway had already seen it. There were no adults in sight when Brianna and her friends found me at the water fountain between classes. She leaned in, close enough that I could smell her candy apple lip gloss. "Word of advice?" she whispered, voice honeyed and sharp. "Maybe skip prom this year. You wouldn't want to embarrass yourself. Or anyone else." Her friends giggled, and just like that, they melted into the crowd, leaving me alone in a corridor that suddenly felt twice as long. That afternoon, I sat in the back of the library, pretending to study. I replayed the past week over and over, trying to figure out where it all started, what I'd done to earn Brianna's wrath. I'd never dated Tyler. We'd barely even spoken. The idea of me scheming to ruin prom was so ridiculous it might have been funny if it wasn't ruining my life. As I scrolled through my messages for the 100th time, a new notification popped up. An anonymous Instagram account tagged me in a story. Prom disaster incoming. She'll do anything for a date. Number stay desperate. I wanted to cry, or scream, or disappear. Instead, I turned off my phone, shoved my books into my backpack, and fled campus early, telling the front office I had a headache. By the time I got home, my mom was already there, worry lines etched deep into her forehead. "Rough week?" she asked. I shrugged, unable to meet her eyes. She didn't push, but she did what moms do: ordered takeout, put on a silly movie, and pretended everything was normal. For a few hours, I almost believed it. But late that night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, haunted by a truth I couldn't shake. If Brianna wanted to ruin prom for me, she'd already won. Unless I found a way to flip the script. There's a moment after a storm when the world seems still, eerily calm. Except for me, the thunder never really stopped. I walked into school Monday morning and felt the shift, as if I'd stepped onto a movie set where everyone knew their lines, but I'd missed the script. The whispers had sharpened into blades. The air itself seemed to pulse with a secret code that everyone but me understood. Every corner of my daily life became a minefield. It started in the hallways. Clusters of students huddled around lockers would fall silent when I walked by, eyes flickering up from phones to give me that sideways glance, with that up and down scan as if I were some science experiment gone wrong. Every laugh sounded like it might be at my expense. Every murmur felt personal. Even the teachers, Mr. Daniels, Miss Cross from math, the usually sunny librarians seemed more guarded, more careful around me, their smiles brittle. But nothing stung as sharply as the distance from my so-called friends. Kira's absence at lunch was no longer just a scheduling conflict. It was a message. The group chatons, a flurry of memes and late-night homework, panic dried up to radio silence. Jason, who used to walk me home after study group, started leaving 5 minutes early, barely glancing in my direction. Even the friendliest faces, the ones who never cared for drama, started shrinking away, nervous to be caught in the crossfire. Social media only made it worse. Every scroll was a landmine. My DMs filled with mocking memes, anonymous accounts tagging me in more posts about desperation and DM slides. Fake screenshots were traded like trading cards, some so sloppily done it would be laughable if they didn't sting. I stopped posting. I stopped liking other people's photos, afraid of drawing more attention to myself. But the less I engaged, the more invisible I became, except when I was the butt of the joke. Home, once a refuge, became a haunted house of silent questions. My mom noticed the change right away. She watched me push food around my plate, caught me flinching every time my phone buzzed. She tried to reach out: movie nights, ice cream, gentle nudges to talk, but I wasn't ready to tell her how bad it really was. How could I explain a hurricane of humiliation made up of words and pixels? Even at night, my mind raced in circles. I replayed old conversations, hunting for the moment everything went wrong. Was it something I'd said to Brianna? Some accidental slight? I scrolled through my messages to Tyler barely, a handful, all polite and ordinary, nothing that could fuel this fire. But it didn't matter. The story had a life of its own now, and I was powerless to stop it. At school, the cruelty escalated. Someone accidentally knocked my lunch tray over in the cafeteria. My locker was jammed with paper scraps, anonymous notes that read, "Don't embarrass yourself at prom." Teachers' eyes lingered on me in class, as if waiting for me to snap or cry or confess. I kept my head down, tried to disappear. But invisibility, I learned, has its own kind of pain. Walking home became an ordeal. Every car that drove by felt like it might slow down, roll down a window, shout something awful. I started taking side streets, cutting through alleys just to avoid the main roads. My world shrank one humiliation at a time. One afternoon, I stayed late to avoid the crush of bodies in the hall. The janitor, Mr. Lopez, found me sitting on the bench outside the gym, clutching my backpack like a life preserver. "Tough week, huh?" he asked, voice gentle. I nodded, unable to find words. He just gave me a sympathetic smile and said, "Kids forget. Trust me. One day, this'll be old news." I wanted to believe him, but in the middle of it, it felt eternal. My grades slipped. I missed a deadline for my English essay, unheard of for me. My teachers gave concerned looks but didn't press. In gym class, I was picked last for dodgeball, something that hadn't happened since 6th grade. I started counting the days until graduation, wondering if I could just fast forward past the pain. At home, I hid in my room, music blaring through my headphones, hoping to drown out the world. My mom finally cornered me one evening, her eyes tired and worried. "I don't know what's going on, but I want you to remember you're stronger than whatever they say. Don't let them decide who you are." I wanted to believe her, but I didn't feel strong. I felt hollowed out, like someone had scooped out the parts that mattered and left a shell behind. Nights became the worst. Lying in the dark, I imagined the upcoming prom, the decorations, the music, the possibility of Brianna's friends pulling one last prank. Would anyone even want me there? Or would I just be a walking punchline? Still, somewhere beneath the humiliation, something stubborn sparked. Maybe it was anger. Maybe it was the memory of who I was before Brianna's rumors stole my narrative. Whatever it was, it burned, just a little enough to keep me showing up, one day after the next, even as the world around me shrank. Because that's the thing about isolation. It strips you bare. But sometimes, in the quiet, you remember who you are beneath the noise. I didn't know it yet, but this was just the crucible. The rumors, the loneliness, the silence, they were sharpening me, turning the pain into something else, something dangerous. And somewhere, out there, the spark of revenge waited, hungry for a chance. They say pain changes people. For me, it was less like a change and more like a quiet eruption, a crack running through the foundation of who I was, letting something new seep in. The old me had always been careful, cautious, eager not to make waves. But humiliation is a tide you can't outrun. It wears you down, grain by grain, until there's nothing left to lose. And with nothing left, I started seeing the world with fresh eyes. The breaking point came on a Thursday, right in the middle of the cafeteria. It should have been a regular lunch, just another day to keep my head down and try not to give anyone more ammunition. But Brianna was never content with whispers. She liked her cruelty out in the open, where everyone could see. It started when I found my seat. Instead of the usual scattered leftovers, there was a single cupcake sitting on my tray, frosted in neon pink with a little flag stuck in the middle. On the flag, in Brianna's handwriting, were the words, "Try Harder 3. Her table burst into laughter, snapping pictures with their phones as I stood there, frozen, staring at this pathetic offering. For a second, I thought I'd cry. But then something snapped. That was the moment. Not a scream, not a scene, just a sudden, blinding clarity. For weeks, I'd been playing the victim, letting Brianna decide the narrative, letting everyone else choose how I was supposed to feel. But looking at that cupcake, at Brianna's triumphant smirk, I realized something vital. Her power depended on my silence. She'd spent weeks spinning stories about me. Maybe it was time I rewrote the ending. That night, back home, I stared at the ceiling and let my mind wander past the pain. What did Brianna have that I didn't? Control, attention, fear. She ruled by making people afraid to stand out, afraid to stand up. What if I flipped that script? What if, instead of shrinking, I made my next move impossible to ignore? But revenge, I decided, couldn't be petty. It had to be memorable, poetic, a moment that would live rent-free in the school's memory forever. I ran through every possibility, confronting her in public, making a dramatic scene, posting my own receipts online, but none of it felt right. I didn't want to become her. I wanted justice, not just payback. Scrolling through social media for the 1000th time, I noticed something new. A post from Tyler, Brianna's ex. He wasn't at Brianna's table anymore, and if the rumors were true, Their breakup had been a public disaster. His story was a carefully curated sequence of gym selfies and memes, but there was something different about his tone, something tired, almost bitter. That's when the idea started to form. As quietly and simply as a seed in the dark, I started connecting the dots. Tyler knew what it was like to be burned by Brianna. He'd been on the receiving end of her gossip, her mind games, her mean girl theater. Maybe he was tired of playing along too. What if, instead of hiding, I reached out? What if we both showed up at prom not as a couple, but as a united front, two people who refused to be pawns in Brianna's story? At first, the idea felt ridiculous, like something out of a revenge movie. Too bold, too risky. But the more I thought about it, the more perfect it seemed. Not because I wanted to date Tyler, but because it would flip the power dynamic, rewrite the rumor, and let everyone see Brianna's games for what they were. Shallow, transparent, and utterly beatable. I spent the rest of the night crafting a message. I wanted it to be honest, not desperate. I wrote, deleted, rewrote, and finally landed on, "Hey Tyler, we don't really know each other, but I think we have something in common being over Brianna's drama. I know this is random, but I was thinking, what if we made prom a night everyone actually remembers, for the right reasons? No pressure, just let me know if you're interested." I hesitated for 10 minutes, thumb hovering over send, heart thumping so hard I could hear it in my ears. Then, with a single breath, I pressed the button. The message was out there. Maybe nothing would come of it. Maybe Tyler would think I was weird, or desperate, or worse, part of another rumor. But for the first time in weeks, I felt something new. Possibility. That night, I slept soundly, dreamless, unburdened by humiliation or fear. For the first time since the rumors began, I woke up with a spark in my chest, a hunger to take my story back. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't loud or cruel. It's rewriting the ending, turning shame into strength. And my story? It was just getting interesting. Morning sunlight crept across my bedroom wall, spilling in slow, golden stripes that should have felt like hope. But hope wasn't something I trusted anymore. Not after the weeks I'd had. Still, as I reached for my phone, a flicker of that restless energy remained, the one that had pushed me to message Tyler in the first place. No response. Not yet. My stomach twisted with every vibration, convinced it would be something new, a fresh meme at my expense, a friendly reminder from Brianna's inner circle to stay in my lane. But when Tyler's name finally popped up just after noon, my heart nearly leapt out of my chest. His reply was direct. No small talk. Just, "I know exactly what you mean. Brianna's had her fun. Prom could use a shakeup. I'm in if you are. Let's talk." Relief and nerves tangled together as I typed back, thumbs clumsy with adrenaline. Our first real conversation wasn't about revenge, or even Brianna. Not really. We joked about the school's desperate prom theme, the third year in a row of a night under the stars. Seriously, who kept voting for that? Swapped stories about our favorite teachers, and bonded over the strange experience of being on the wrong side of the rumor mill. There was a comfort in it, a sense of being seen, of talking to someone who knew what it was like to be the target instead of the punchline. Tyler wasn't bitter, just tired. Tired of Brianna's games, tired of everyone pretending not to notice, tired of letting someone else set the tone for every day. But he was also funny, disarmingly so. He called Brianna's group the Plastics 2.0, suggested we wear matching tuxedos and top hats just to troll the prom photographers, and asked if I thought the school DJ would be taking bribes for song requests. For the first time in what felt like forever, I laughed, really laughed, the kind that shakes something loose inside you. We messaged late into the evening, planning the details. No fake relationship, no over-the-top stunts, just a united front. We'd walk in together, outfits coordinated just enough to catch attention, but not so obvious it looked rehearsed. Tyler suggested we keep things under wraps, let the anticipation simmer. "Let them wonder," he wrote. "Sometimes the mystery is half the fun." I agreed, and as the plan took shape, something else started to happen. Word spread, little hints and winks on social media, inside joke here, a cryptic post there. Not enough to fuel new rumors, but enough to make people curious. My classmates, who'd spent weeks avoiding me, started to take notice. Some even reached out, offering small words of support. A couple of friends I thought I'd lost Kira. Jason sent cautious texts. Heard you're going to prom with Tyler? You okay? If you want to talk, I'm here. Maybe it was just curiosity, but it felt like the tide was shifting. A few brave souls even invited me to join them for lunch. The isolation began to fade, bit by bit, replaced by something like cautious optimism. Not forgiveness, not yet, but an opening. Tyler and I met up once awkwardly, at a coffee shop across town where nobody from school ever went. He was quieter in person, more guarded, but his eyes held a kind of stubborn kindness. We went over the plan again, ironed out the details. He'd pick me up prom night, we'd arrive together, stay for the pictures, then actually enjoy ourselves, dance, eat, talk, and leave whenever we wanted. No drama, no performative revenge. Just the two of us reclaiming our night. The days ticked by. Prom approached. My confidence returned, slowly at first, like sunlight in winter, shy but persistent. The whispers didn't stop, but they changed. Now, I wasn't just the desperate girl. I was the mystery, the story nobody could quite figure out. And as I lay in bed the night before prom, I realized something simple but true. Brianna might have started the rumors, but I was about to end them on my terms. Revenge wasn't about humiliation. It was about standing up, taking back my story, and letting everyone see that I couldn't be broken by gossip or fear. Tomorrow, everything would change. The last week before prom was like living inside a pressure cooker rumor and curiosity simmering, ready to blow. I could feel it with every step I took through the halls, every glance from classmates who once looked through me, now watching with a strange mix of suspicion and fascination. Maybe it was the cryptic posts Tyler and I dropped on Instagram, a pair of shoes here, a shot of a starry sky there. Nothing outright, just enough to stoke the fires of gossip. Kira slid into my DMs again. Are you really going to prom with him? Is this for real, or... I could practically feel her holding her breath on the other side of the screen. For the first time in weeks, I allowed myself a little smile as I replied, "You'll see." Tyler and I planned every detail like it was a covert operation. We didn't want drama for drama's sake, wanted the moment to speak for itself. We decided on a color theme. Midnight blue for him, a sleek matching dress for me, both with tiny silver star accents. Enough to look coordinated, not staged. Subtle, but unforgettable. We agreed. No big announcement, no showing off online before the event. The magic was in the mystery. The night before prom, Tyler sent a single message. Ready for a little chaos? I texted back a photo of my dress, just the shimmering fabric, and wrote, "Let's give them a show." In the background, life slowly began to repair itself. Some classmates quietly reached out to apologize for disappearing. Jason finally caught up to me after school, shifting awkwardly from foot to foot, apologizing for being a coward. Kira invited me to her graduation party. For the first time, I felt less like a ghost and more like myself, a version that had survived something, hardened and brighter for it. On the morning of prom, my mom was waiting with a mug of tea and the kind of smile that only moms can pull off. "I'm proud of you, you know," she said, helping me zip up my dress with careful, gentle hands. "Not for going to prom, but for not letting anyone tell you who you are." There was a lump in my throat as I hugged her, fighting tears, but they were good tears this time, cleansing, lightening the load. Tyler arrived right on time, standing at the curb in his midnight blue suit, tie slightly askew, a mischievous glint in his eye. My mom insisted on photos, and for a few minutes, we posed like something out of a movie, awkward, laughing, but undeniably real. The car ride to prom was filled with nervous jokes, deep breaths, and the shared, unspoken truth that this night was about more than revenge. It was about reclaiming dignity, about proving we could choose our own ending. Tyler glanced over as we pulled up to the venue, flashing a crooked grin. "Ready to break the internet?" I grinned back, heart pounding. "Let's do it." As we approached the doors, the energy changed. Heads turned. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. For a split second, the entire world seemed to hold its breath. The plan was working. We walked in, side by side, not clinging, not pretending to be anything. We weren't just two people making a statement. The cameras flashed. The crowd buzzed. Some people gawked. A few cheered. And in the sea of stunned faces, I caught Brianna standing with her friend's eyes wide, smile frozen, caught somewhere between disbelief and fury. She blinked, recalibrated, tried to play it cool, but the mask had slipped, just for a moment. Tyler squeezed my hand, and I squeezed back, feeling electricity in the air, a storm about to break, but one that belonged to us now. Because power isn't always about who shouts the loudest. Sometimes, it's the quiet confidence of walking into a room with nothing to hide, no shame, no fear. Sometimes, it's the courage to let everyone watch and know you're unbreakable. Prom had just begun, but the story was already changing. If the days leading up to prom were a slow boil, the moment we walked through those double doors was a thunderclap. For a few seconds, the entire gym froze. Even the DJ lost his rhythm, the music dipping just long enough for everyone to process what was happening. There I was, the girl who was supposed to be invisible, unwanted, desperate, the target of Brianna's weeks-long campaign, walking in arm with her ex, Tyler. The boy she'd paraded through the halls like a trophy, now by my side. It was a silence thick enough to taste, and then, as if on cue, the crowd split. Some people gasped, others elbowed their friends, phones already raised for the perfect photo. A wave of whispers rolled across the room. Me, name, Tyler's, Brianna's. The math wasn't hard to do, but the meaning behind it, that was new. I was no longer the joke. Tyler leaned in, his voice barely above a whisper. You ready for this? I nodded, chin high, refusing to shrink. We stepped onto the dance floor as the lights shimmered overhead, and it was like something in a movie's slow motion. Spotlighted, unforgettable. Brianna stood with her clique near the punch bowl, eyes wide, lips parted. Her shock was so pure, it bordered on comical. She tried to mask it, laughing too loudly, tossing her hair, rolling her eyes. But her gaze kept flicking back to us, each glance more desperate than the last. And then came the first twist. Tyler, ever the showman, pulled me in for a dance just as the opening notes of a love song played. It wasn't rehearsed, but we moved as if it was, swaying in sync, smiling like we'd been waiting for this moment all year. People started to cheer, some even clapped. The Wallflowers and Outcasts, my people, caught my eye, sending silent support across the room. The DJ, catching the vibe, announced an impromptu contest. Best entrance. The crowd exploded with suggestions, chants of our names, laughter, someone even shouting, "Finally!" And some drama worth posting. I could feel the energy shift away from Brianna, who suddenly looked stranded, her friends whispering, unsure if standing near her was still the smart move. We posed for photos, but there was nothing fake in our smiles. Tyler joked about asking the photographer for a glamour shot to send Brianna as a holiday card. I laughed so hard I almost cried, and in that moment I realized I wasn't performing. I was free. As the night went on, the two of us became the center of gravity. People approached, some curious, some genuinely supportive. A few whispered apologies for believing the rumors. The outcasts gathered around, creating our own circle of light and laughter. The teachers even got in on the act, Mr. Daniels giving me a conspiratorial thumbs up as we passed. And Brianna? For the first time, she seemed small adrift, ignored, her power bleeding away with every new photo, every new laugh that wasn't hers. She tried to rally, pulling her friends close, making a big show of enjoying herself. But the damage was done. The rumor mill had a new story, and she was no longer its author. Toward the end of the night, the DJ announced the winners of Best Entrance and Cutest Couple. Tyler squeezed my hand. "No way," I whispered, but the crowd was already chanting. We walked up, collected our silly plastic trophies, and Tyler leaned in for a whispered, "Told you we'd break the internet." Cameras flashed. Laughter rose like music. In that spotlight, I felt a lightness I hadn't known in months. I wasn't just reclaiming my reputation, I was writing something entirely new. As the last song played, Tyler and I slipped out to the parking lot. leaving the chaos and glitter behind. The world outside was cool and quiet, the stars sharp overhead, just like the theme we'd mocked together. I looked at him, this unexpected co-conspirator, and grinned. Worth it? He smiled back, tired but triumphant. Every second. Inside, the gossip machine was already grinding, but this time, it was on my terms. I had survived the storm and brought the queen down a peg, all without sinking to her level. Prom night wasn't just a victory, it was freedom. And tomorrow, the story would spread, but this time, I'd be the one holding the pen. Prom night faded into memory, the way all pivotal moments do sharp and electric in the moment, then soft and golden in hindsight, like the afterglow of a thunderstorm. But the ripple effects? Those lasted. Monday morning, I walked into school different. I didn't shrink from the glances this time. I met them head-on, a quiet, unbothered smile on my lips. The whispers were still there, but their flavor had changed. Now it was awe, curiosity, admiration, even. Did you see her last Friday? She walked in with Tyler. Brianna looked like she was going to explode. For once, I wasn't the cautionary tale. I was the legend. People who'd once avoided me made space at their lunch tables. The group chat I'd been exiled from buzzed with notifications, again memes, plans for the weekend, cautious apologies wrapped in jokes. Kira hugged me by my locker, eyes shining with real regret. "I'm sorry I let them get to me," she whispered. "You didn't deserve any of it." I squeezed her back, feeling the wound begin to heal. Even Jason, sheepish and awkward, slipped a note into my textbook. "You're braver than any of us. Sorry I didn't stand up." It wasn't just the apologies, though. It was the new respect, the way teachers smiled knowingly, the subtle nods from classmates I'd never spoken to. Even the outcasts walked a little taller. If I could come back from that, maybe anyone could. As for Brianna, her social empire started to crack. The people who'd flocked to her side now kept their distance. Her jokes fell flat, her power waned, and though she tried to spin a new narrative, "I'm over it, whatever, it's not even a big deal," no one really bought it anymore. She wasn't the story, she was the footnote. But the real payoff wasn't her downfall. It was my own revival. Tyler and I stayed friends, co-conspirators, survivors of the rumor mill. We texted about college plans, shared memes, even studied together for finals. There was no romance, no need for more drama. Just two people who'd turned a nightmare into something almost worth remembering. The school's yearbook team voted us most memorable entrants. The photos, me in midnight blue, Tyler grinning, Brianna in the blurry background, mouth agape, became instant classics, shared and reshared until they belonged to everyone. I learned something no rumor could take away. That power is choosing your own story, refusing to play the part written for you by someone else. That revenge, when done right, isn't about making someone else hurt, it's about reminding yourself you're unbreakable. By the time graduation rolled around, I was no longer the desperate girl, or the victim, or even the hero of some wild comeback. I was just me. And that was the sweetest victory of all. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't just reclaiming your name, it's giving everyone a story they'll never forget.